today are the leadership of the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, our Sheriff Gary Schuette and Undersheriff Chris Simpson. Welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon, Bart.
Hey Bart, how you doing?
I'm great. Great to see you. Everything under control in our wonderful county?
We certainly
Today?
hope so.
It is.
These deputies do a fine job of keeping us all safe. They really do.
Great. Well, one of the things that voters will see on their August primary ballot is a millage request for the county for public safety. And today we invite you guys here to tell our viewers what this is all about and what are the needs and issues that you're seeking to solve.
So, first and foremost is the failing infrastructure that we have inside the jail on Wesley Street. I think you've seen it firsthand. I know you've had a camera crew in there, and there's just a lot going on there that needs to be repaired, and frankly, it's beyond repair in most cases. What makes this more of a public safety issue than anything else, aside from that being a public safety issue, is the fact that we are in a predicament right now where we have a higher classification inmate. And I'll explain what classification level is in just a moment. We have a higher classification inmate over on Channer Road because Wesley Street no longer fits them. And Channer Road has a higher classification inmate than it was designed to have. So classification level is something that we have to do in pursuant to state statute. And essentially what it means is, for instance, if somebody gets arrested for, say, retail fraud or perhaps drunk driving in the first offense, that kind of a thing, never been in trouble before in their life, that would be a low classification level or class level 1. Whereas the person who gets arrested for murder or rape is a multi-convicted felon, maybe is an escape risk for one reason or another, that would be a classification level 4, a high classification level. So right now, Channer Road, which was designed for a low classification inmate to serve out their time, that is now our overflow for our high classification level inmates. So we have 2 barracks out there. They're dorm style barracks. They're not the barracks that contain cells. And we have our high classification level inmates out there, and that's dangerous. As a result of that, we've had a number of assaults on our deputies. Last year alone, we had 14 assaults on deputies.
Really?
Yeah, incredibly high in comparison to all the rest of the sheriff's offices around us. Nobody else was even close. The closest one had half, and that was 7 assaults on their deputies. And in addition to that, we had 5 escape attempts last year. All the other sheriff's offices around us had a combined number of 0.
Out of Chandler Road? They're trying to escape out of there, or Wesley Street?
It's both,
Really?
actually. Yes, and it's a couple of different ways. And of course, we thwarted those attempts because you haven't heard anything about it. But that certainly is a public safety issue.
Yeah, so if an inmate even thinks about trying to escape, they're obviously seeing some sort of opportunity, either some sort of flaw or vulnerability with the facility, that they would even try it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about folks when they're in jail. The folks that are in jail, they're looking for those types of opportunities. So obviously, they're seeing that with us.
So you would have someone charged with shoplifting, like right next to someone charged with murder?
So in a multi-classification facility, which is what our Wesley Street facility is, we're able to segregate them by cells. So yes, we can actually put them next to one another, but they don't interact.
They can't reach their hands through the bars?
No. They wouldn't be able to interact on Wesley Street because of the way that facility is designed.
Okay.
But Channer Road is a different type of facility. It's an open air facility that allows for dorms. And when it was constructed and designed, it was a different time, right? Because back then, people were serving time for driving while license suspended, different low-level misdemeanor crimes that no longer require people to serve time anymore. It's just a fine now. And so the need for those types of classifying cells has greatly diminished. But our county has grown by nearly 30,000 population since we built Channer Road. And we've always had this need, even then, we've always had this need for higher classification or multi-classification cells. So where we can segregate the population a little bit differently. And with that, we have the problem with Channer Road. And so Channer Road it still has a little bit of a use for us in terms of a step-down arrangement for some of our inmates. The reality of it is it's not designed for the inmate that we have out there.
All right, so we were asked to approve a millage a couple of years ago for a new jail, replace Wesley Street completely, and now this is a reimagined request, taking into consideration the community said no the first time around. This is Plan B then, would you say, with what you're asking?
Yeah,
it-
I would say this is Plan B.
So Wesley Street, what happens to Wesley Street if this were to pass?
Wesley Street stays where it is.
Okay.
85-90% of it will be mothballed. In other words, the heating and the cooling and the water, everything is going to be shut off to the jail portion of it as it is. And
It won't be a jail anymore.
There won't
no
be
jail
jail.
operations.
Okay.
correct.
Staff operations,
Just
administrative
sheriff.
operations
Okay.
will still continue there, yes.
Right. My office has to remain there. Chris has to remain there. We have to have our administrative functions still within the city. That's the primary office of the sheriff has to remain in the city. And that would be my primary office. So FOIAs, fingerprinting, different things of that nature will still happen in our office.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, and I think that was the message you guys got across, that this place is crumbling, there's stuff falling off the ceilings, and it's not safe for you as employees or inmates. The Chandler Road then, that's where we're focusing. All of the jail operations are going to be out there.
Yes.
What needs to be done, since it's not functional as what it needs to be right now? What are the changes or improvements that have to happen?
So essentially what we will do is we have out there right now several different buildings. So this was built differently, right, than a common jail. So jail is normally a place that's very static. In other words, we bring and deliver things to the inmate, whereas prison, which is different, is some place where the inmate goes to different places. So Channer Road was built with that in mind because it was a place for low-level inmates to serve their time. Now what we'd have to do is change that, and the proposal is that we would go in and use our current A barracks, which houses 100 or can house up to 126 inmates, and we would change that over to our booking area, which would have 25 individualized cells for mental health and addicted people. And then we would build a jail out there in the center of the complex that would house 250 inmates, and that's that multi-classification inmate. In addition to that, we close and lose 185 that we would have here on Wesley Street. That's how many beds we have. And we would also do something a little bit different with the 250, whereas right now, out of that 185, at least 30 on any given day are female. And so the female inmates do not have a step down. In this instance, with what we're proposing, the females would have a step down into yet another building, which is our chow hall right now, where we cook our meals. So the 30 females would then be moved over there. So essentially what this does is it creates 95 more multi-classification beds than what we have right now. And that's a game changer for us. It makes it so much easier for us to be able to segregate inmates. It's safer for the deputies that are dealing with them. And frankly, it's safer for the inmates, it decreases liability, and it's better for us all the way around. So the interesting thing about that, I didn't mean to interrupt, the interesting thing about that is right now, bed-wise, we have 437 beds. And effectively what this does is eliminates 31 of those beds, but those are the beds that we don't need anymore, the beds that are low classification.
Well, I think anyone that ends up, for whatever reason, a resident, they don't want to have to sleep with one eye open.
Right.
And there's that fear right now, isn't there?
Certainly.
Yeah.
We certainly want the facility to be safe and secure. Safe for inmates that are arrested there and going through a judicial process, and also safe for the our employees, the deputies who work there every day as well. So safety and security is obviously pinnacle.
Right. And there's mental health issues too that you are not able to address, and drug addiction, which ends up being one of the problems that becomes a criminal problem, also is something you feel you aren't able to address properly right now, right?
I think we certainly have an obligation to address those challenges, and the deputies and who we contract right now, there's a system in place to help with that. We have nurses, we have a doctor, we have psychologists that we have a resource to when some of our inmates are in crisis. And our deputies do a fantastic job. The supervisors, the captain and lieutenant, they do a good job with making sure those resources are deployed correctly. But it's still a challenge just based on how the building is set. Right. And you know, a new building obviously will help that as well.
Just you know, logistically having two jails in a county, it kind of doesn't make sense in the first place.
I think it was a good idea. You know, was that 20 years ago, G?
Yeah.
20 years ago or so. But I think time has outgrown that. It's harder on personnel because we split personnel between two facilities.
And you got back and forth, all this back and forth.
And we do have back and forth. They cook out there. They have to bring it over to Wesley Street. There's a lot of things that go on logistically, as you say, when you're dealing with multi-facilities.
All right, let's talk about the dollars. What does this boil down to?
So amazingly, we're asking for less than what we asked for in 2022, but the cost went up by $2 million. So how does that happen, right? Well, inflation, which has been a little bit out of control lately. I think it's stabilizing itself now a little bit, but nevertheless, inflation took care of that for us. And in a sense, you know, helped us, but also hurt us because of the fact that the cost of the jail went up from $52 million from our proposal before to $54 million now. But it's interesting how we got there. And when we looked at the original proposal, which was a very good proposal, we asked for that to be upgraded with current inflationary prices. And it went to nearly $30 million more. It was $80 million was the proposal for the just 2 years ago, which was $52 million. So we knew that wasn't going to work. We had a jail ad hoc committee comprised of a couple of county commissioners, a couple of township supervisors. The Undersheriff was on it as well as some facility managers from the county. And I believe we had a citizen or two on there as well. Right. And they went through all of the different information provided by the architectural group, as well as Region 2, which did a white paper saying that the building couldn't be repaired. And we went back to work with the architect. They drew up 3 different plans. And the committee made a decision to choose the third plan. And essentially what that does is it moved out patrol operations out there as well. And we learned from that in talking with our insurance provider that there's actually a hidden benefit, I shouldn't say hidden, but a benefit that we weren't aware of originally, that'll actually help us on our insurance costs. So it made sense on a number of different levels. So essentially $54 million is the price tag to add a 250 bed facility out there and then reconfigure the rest of the buildings that we have out there for a booking and for patrol operations. Comparatively speaking, Clinton County had recently requested an architectural group give them a price on a 160 bed jail, and that price was $70 million. So I think we're doing really well. We're being fiscally responsible. There's been some questions about how much money that the millage is going to raise. And it's important for folks to understand that the millage from the early 2000s, which built the Channer Road facility, contained within it operation costs for the Channer Road facility. Those costs today are right around $1.5 million. So out of that millage request that we're making to build this new jail are also operation costs. And of course you have to service the bond, which means we have to pay interest on the bond as well. So the bond is simply our loan or our mortgage to build this jail. So as the cost is $54 million, it will be more than that with the interest that we'll pay. So all of that in total will roughly be $104 to $106 million that will be received by the county in this request. Mm-hmm. So that will take care of the price to build it. It will take care of the interest to service that bond, and it'll also pay for the operational costs, which is the legacy that we received when we took over from the Channer Road original millage. So that's what will come out of it all.
All right. Early voting starts this weekend. Absentee voting is already underway, and you can go in person on primary election day on August 6th. August 6th. All right. You guys have all the information, everything we talked about, even more on the Jackson County website.
Yes, sir.
All right. Great to see you guys.
Always good to see you, Bart.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. The 2024 Jackson County Public Safety Millage, questions and answers with Sheriff Gary Schuette and Undersheriff Chris Simpson.